Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Hot Jazz by Hunt Emerson, the great English cartoonist. This is a collection of all of his Max Zillion strips, also his saxophone friend Alto Ego. These appeared from the 80s all the way up till the teens of the 20 teens. Some amazing stuff going on in this book. I'm a huge Hunt Emerson fan. I'm rereading this last night for the first time in a few years. I'm just like, I'm born again Hunt Emerson lover. It's a pretty substantial book, pretty big, as you can tell. It's pretty hefty, pretty fat. Published by Knockabout in 2015. So let's crack this open. Has nice little end flaps here. Apparently this was published due to a Kickstarter. So I think they got a lot of money because it's very nice production. Lots of color. Paper's very nice. And we have a nice title page here. And we start off with an introduction from Hunt Emerson, giving us a little history of how he started these comics. Also about his relationship with jazz. He used to not like jazz. Even when he started Max Zillion, he wasn't much of a jazz fan. He just liked the whole culture of jazz. He liked the idea of these, poor bebop guys just scrounging for their next gig, wearing cool suits. But eventually, over the years now, he's a huge fan. This will give you an idea of the imaginative inventiveness of Hunt Emerson. Almost every page is packed with stuff like this. He gives us notes on the comics, which is, I love when artists do this. Give us a little background. He even has this picture. His brother, his moped or whatever, scooter, has a gas tank painted like Max Zillion, of Max Zillion. Some nice little illustrations here. There's a cover of Knockabout Comics in which it was the Knockabout number 8 in which one of these stories appeared that Hunt Emerson drew. So we start off with, these are out of chronological order. This first story was made in 1996. And it was for a Newcastle comic convention. This is Max Zillion and Alto Ego in Bebop Riot. Just look at this first panel, guys. Look at this. He just draws a crowd scene. Every single character in here is some amazing cartoon creation. It's so much fun to look at. He's so imaginative, Hunt Emerson. That's why he's one of my favorite cartoonists. So here we meet Max Zillion, the prototypical, cool, beatnik-speaking jazz beau. And we see him, his sax alto, who is his friend, and he actually talks. He's not anthropomorphic, but he is sentient. A sentient sax. And we see him busking. And he says, you know what? I think the world needs to cool out. He tells Alto. But then he plays his crazy bebop. And look at this page, guys. Right off the bat, Hunt Emerson is just unleashing the hounds. I mean, look at this, just fun. Like, basically he's trying to depict music in pictorial form, which, a lot of artists will tell you it's hard. It's an interesting task. This is just amazing stuff. He really, even though I'm not a huge jazz fan, I have heard like crazy bebop that's all discordant. You can almost see it, what it sounds like, or hear what it looks like from this picture. He's obviously playing some like squonky jazz. His jazz is so out there that it actually does the opposite of what he wanted. It doesn't chill people out. Everyone turns into a riot. The music is so insightful and inciting, I should say. And then so he runs away. When he gets to his manager's office the next day, his manager's in many of the strips. I'll get his name in a second. He says, hey, did you see the paper? There was a downtown jazz riot. Why can't you play music that causes a riot? And Max is a kind of a meek guy. So he's trying to say, but he never spits it out that it was him. So basically he says, you better get out there and start causing riots. Oh, his name is Mean McMudda. That's his manager's name. Kind of looks like a anthropomorphic shark man type thing. Look at that. Freewheeling Franklin from the Furry Freak Brothers is there. He's hanging out. I'll try not to mention it too much, but if you guys look at this comic closely, just every panel, just these amazingly interesting background characters. He puts in a lot of chicken fat, just an eye candy, just like Will Elder. Every panel is packed with stuff. This is one of his later comics, his 80s comics. There's even more of the chicken fat. So now Max goes out there to try to start a riot. And unfortunately, Alto's reed is cracked. Mean McMudda shows up just to take his 2-cent commission from a dime he gets from busking. This is a running gag, too, of Mean McMudda. He's just always popping it out of nowhere. Even though Max is completely broke, even if he has a quarter, Mean McMudda will be like, hey, 10% of that's mine. Cough it up. All of a sudden, a cop shows up, and he runs Max in for accusing him of trying to start another jazz riot. He says, don't you know there's jazz riots going on around town? Of course, Mean McMudda does nothing and just kind of laughs. Next, we have probably the first Max Zillion story. This is The Eatery Gig. Max is looking for a gig in the want ads. Alto is at a wax bath to clean him up. It's really almost sweet. Like, Max and Alto are just like the best friends in the world. I love their relationship. It's Max is this character that you just can't help but love. I could read 100 stories of these two. Unfortunately, there's not, and there probably never will be. But I think these are like classic comic characters. So lovable, so likable. Look at just the random shit Hunt Emerson throws in. So now this is the early 80s. So he's got a Picasso drawing on the wall. This weird, bizarro sculpture. Just all these random things. A little robot. He just can't help himself but to draw interesting little things in every corner of each panel. So he sees an ad for this place called El Mondo Bruncho. It turns out the proprietor is Mean McMudda. So he says, well, I might get a job there. So he goes down there. Turns out that he doesn't want Max to play for his clientele. He doesn't have enough respect for him for that. Oh, by the way, guys, he's walking down past this abandoned yard, and there's just these giant statue heads. This is such a weird, surreal touch. Okay, I promised I'm going to try not to mention every little character, but there's so many that are so great. It's so hard not to. But so he gets to the club. Look at these people eating at the club. They're all these identical, just fucking giant mouths, just scarfing down huge quantities of food. Basically, he leads Max to the back of the restaurant. Outside is a dock. That's where they get their fish shipments. Apparently, these seagulls have been eating all the profits. And here we see the seagulls just basically taunting, just saying, hey, McMudda, we let the fish already. Where's the fish? So basically, I guess Max's job is he's going to, whenever the seagulls show up during the fish, the fish just jump onto the dock. I don't know why. I guess he's going to play his jazz, and that'll ward off the seagulls. That's the idea. Hunt Emerson has a lot of crazy ideas in his comic. It's very cartoon logic, you know? So the seagulls start heading for the fish. Max plays his jazz, and it's so crazy and squonky. The fish fly up into the air, and the seagulls fly into the ocean. Meanwhile, we see next door, Mr. and Mrs. Plankton have put their millions of kids to bed in all these little jars. And the fish, the flying fish, attack, just crash through their window and say, look at all this food, all nice and jarred up for us. And they go to town. Mr. and Mrs. Plankton run away. Meanwhile, the seagulls are now underwater, and they see that the garbage chute pipe of McMudda's restaurant is there. So like, hey, let's go inside. There's probably some good grub in there. Meanwhile, McMudda's angry with the staff because no fish has come. The fish shipment never arrived. His customers are hungry. There's some kind of an anti-bird league convention going on. So he has no fish to feed them. Meanwhile, back to the plankton couple. They're flying through the street. They're becoming phosphorescent due to just their emotional state. Now back to the anti-bird league meeting. And they're getting very angry that they don't have a fish supper. It's just a weird anti-bird league. It's so dumb. And right then, a pipe breaks, and all the seagulls attack the anti-bird convention. Look at this great panel here. Like, this could be wallpaper. It's such a great angular design going on here. Then, basically, Mean McMudda says, hey, calm down, everyone. I got someone to blame. There's someone to blame for all of this. So he's going to blame it on Max. And I'm sorry, guys, I forgot to point this out. When those phosphorescent plankton flew through the air, some bum fell over due to shock and hit one little brick on the corner of this building, which started to crumble. And then we see this building starting to tilt. It's leaning over. Meanwhile, Max is outside just playing some great jazz. There's the building leaning even more. Look how crazy the jazz is. He's turning cubist. And then right then, the Mean McMudda and the anti-bird league come out to basically kick the shit out of Max, but right then the building finally collapses. It lands on all of these assholes. Max jumps in the water and escapes. We see him at the city limits. He's just ditching town. Next we have, this is another early tale from 1982. Just a Max Zillion with alto ego. That's what it's titled. So Max has got his first gig in months. Instead of Home Sweet Home, he has Pad Sweet Pad. So Max is always broke. It's kind of sad. He just always ends up with the short end of the stick. Usually no end of the stick. And it's almost a little frustrating reading these where you're like, can't he come out on top once? Or just get $5 or something, enough for a hamburger. So he's broke. He has no money for new reeds. He spent his last $2 on new reeds for alto. And they're really fancy reeds. So he runs into Mean McMudda. And apparently Max gave him 2 dud bills the last time he paid him his cut. So now once again he's in Dutch to Mean McMudda. So now he gets to this club, once again totally populated by these fascinating background characters, and he starts playing. Meanwhile, across town, these 2 guys are working on a heating system. There's an explosion, and we see this giant incinerator type thing fly through the sky all the way across town. Now back at the club, Max is in high groove, and nobody seems to like it. It's a little too out there. So the bar owner says, oh, that was terrible. but I guess here's your money. Of course, after the agency fee, the dressing room rental, blah, 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 taxes, he made $1.98, and Mean McMutter takes all of it. And he still owes him 2 cents for giving him those 2 bum bills. So while he's in the dressing room, this giant, incinerator or whatever it is, heating water tank, something, falls into his room. Max assumes it's a satellite. So he says, "Whoa, I can make a lot of money." And then, once again, this crazy cartoon logic, Max blows on Alto, and he blows a chunk of plaster from the ceiling. It shoots it into space. Just seems like a storytelling non sequitur. It's like, what? But it'll come in later. So now Max heads to the Central Intelligence Agency. I thought they were in England, but I guess not. And we realize that we find out that Max is illiterate. He thinks it reads United States Lost Space Stuff Office. And Alto just shrugs. Alto's the brains of the duo. He goes in, talks to the secretary. Look at this amazing hair, this hairdo. That's so bonkers. It's so great. When she spies Alto, the sax, she hits like an emergency button. Look how crazy this hand is. Hunt Emerson is just he just exaggerates so much, like cartoonish exaggeration. He's just pretty a master of. So all of a sudden it sets these things in motion. All these agents come out, they grab his sax, and they get rid of him. They totally ignore that. They don't give a shit about the thing he thought was a satellite, of course. Meanwhile, that piece of plaster is floating through space. Now we find out why the CIA was acting that way. Apparently, they have this space-based weapon system, which is basically thousands of saxophones aimed at the Earth. That's pretty silly. Once again, cartoon logic. And so they thought that sax was another one, because some of them have been falling through the atmosphere, losing their orbit. And so they're trying to retrieve them. So they basically say, take the sax, take it to the rocket, the NASA rocket place, and shoot it back up into space. So Max follows them, gets there too late. They've already shot his sax into space, Alto. Meanwhile, that piece of plaster from the ceiling is getting riddled by meteors. Little meteors are taking out little chunks of it. Once again, as you're reading this, you're like, where's he heading with this? What's up with this plaster? There is a payoff. It's pretty silly, but there is a payoff. So now Max, once again, penniless. He couldn't sell. He's still holding that radiator or whatever it is. He goes to hang out with his beatnik friends, and his taxi cab buddy, he says, "Hey, my friend Max here needs to get into space." So, of course, these guys are beatniks smoking pot, so they think they give him some pot. These weird guys with their weird little heads here. Crazy. Max smokes some good pot. He just shoots off into outer space. And he finds himself in front of that ring of saxophones. And Alto's there, of course. He introduces Max to another saxophone, this guy named Barry Tone. Kind of cute little pun there. And he basically says, "Boss, we're going to need you to blow." And meanwhile, that chunk of plaster, it keeps getting hit by, meteorites. And the reason why we realize, because it makes it look like a Space Invaders thing. This is 1982. So this whole thing was building up to Hunt Emerson doing this gag. Meanwhile, down at NASA, and there's some CIA guys there, of course, and they see the Space Invader heading towards Earth. And they're like, we're being attacked by aliens. And they're like, well, we can use the saxophone defense thing. And they're like, no, it's aimed at Earth. We were about to, bombard the Earth with decadent capitalist devil music. And then when the CIA, we could just waltz right in and clean up, instituting square music throughout the world. And we can't recalibrate in time. It's already aiming at the Earth. We can't get this space invader. So the CIA is just like, we're doomed. And they all just start running in a panic. So now they see the space invader. Alto says, we're the only ones that can save the Earth. So he says, Max, blow on me. And the other saxes will follow. And I guess they discharge their sonic beams or whatever. And it's such good jazz that the space invader attempts to dance, even though it's just a piece of plasterboard. Of course, it's rigid, so as it attempts to dance, it just crumbles itself into dust. So this imaginary threat has been diverted. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a little later, Max is given a ticker tape parade. Look at this caricature of Ronald Reagan. He looks like he's been burnt. He's got 3rd-degree burns or something. Of course, even though there's a cash reward, there's all these taxes and yada, yada, yada. And so he makes 2 cents from saving the Earth. And of course, Mean McMudda shows up right then and there and grabs the 2 cents. He's like, that's the 2 cents you owe me. They kick him out the door. And Max just says, let's just play some jazz. And they walk down the streets of the city playing. That's another kind of sweet thing I love about Max is like he's always broke, but he's got his sax and he loves his music. And so a lot of these stories end with him getting fucked over, but he just walks off in the sense of playing his sax. And to him, that's heaven. So he's not really that screwed. It's not that sad, his life. So this was, he made this for the 40 Times, this comic, Phenomenomics. And Hunt Emerson did many comic strips for the 40 Times for decades, I think. I think he might have even been like a co-editor at one point, a contributing editor or something. So he, this is just a little one-pager and talking about, because 40 Times talks about phenomena, strange phenomena. So Max talks about the time he found a Lester Young statue, famous saxophone player, and it would just spew wine. It was like a miracle. And so we'd invite all his friends over to drink the wine. We see him caricaturizing Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. They're all in at this party. And that's supposedly where they all invented bebop, from this great wine. It inspired them. Next we have New Shirt Blues. This is from '94. And it's interesting. You can totally see the difference between 80s and 90s Hunt Emerson and also, 2010s. He definitely uses a lot less lines. It's a lot cleaner. I kind of like both styles. I really love his early busy style. He'd throw more shit and, crazy stuff. But it's also just, he's such a great cartoonist. Even his simple style is pretty appealing to the eye. So once again, Mean McMudda has got Max a gig. He has no clean shirts though, so he says, get yourself a new shirt. I don't want you to sully my reputation by looking like a slob. He actually advances Max some money to buy a shirt, which is pretty rare. So he buys this new shirt. He's got to wax up or polish Alto. So he says, I'll use my old shirt. And apparently, because it's such a grimy old shirt, Alto can't play very well. he's got grime on him. So it's just not working. This bad jazz is coming out of the saxophone. So he finally says, okay, I'll polish you with my good, nice, clean shirt. So he just goes on stage wearing an undershirt and puts a jacket over it. God, I love this stuff he does when he trying to depict sound in picture form. So it looks like he plays a great set. Everyone's happy with it. But Mead McMud is pissed off. And he takes all of his money, kind of fines him. And he says, you get no more jobs from me until you smarten up. Poor Max. Here's the cover of the original Jazz Funnies. This was, about half of this was a knockabout publication in the 80s. So this is like a basically expanded version of Jazz Funnies. A lot of stuff, obviously, is added to this. God, that's nice. Hunt Emerson really good at the logos and the design work. This is just some amazing, great graphic design stuff. Next, we have Blues Most Blues. And this was done for, I think I always mix up the name of the Scandinavian countries. One of the blonde countries where everyone's blonde. We'll see that. This was a comic strip. Even though it's not about Max, it is about music and the blues, which is related to jazz, of course. So we see this old black bluesman, and he's getting kicked out of a cantina. And the saloon won't let him in. And so he just kind of walks to his little crappy apartment. Dejectedly, his girlfriend kicks him out, throwing a pan at his head. So now he's stuck out in the rain. It almost looks like Will Eisner. And then, so he's just sad and he's stuck out in the cold. So he just starts going, moan, I got them blues, most blues, moan. Well, cry, whinge. And this guy, this is the character Redneck, I believe. He hears them, hears the music, and he writes it down, runs over to the Nashville recording studio, and basically steals the song. It's a huge hit. He makes a lot of money. But then his managers say, hey, what about the B-side? We need another song. So he, of course, Redneck's like, oh, I got to find that guy. He finds him. This is so sad. He basically kicks him to make him sad enough to sing another song. I got more of them blues, most blues again. Runs back to the recording studio. And he's got another hit on his hands. This is basically a history of popular music in the United States, you could call this. Here's just a little one-pager he made for this book. So 2015, Spanish Harlem. Just a little ode to the song, almost like a comic poem. Just Max is wailing a sax, and we see this beautiful Hispanic girl with a rose in her teeth. I kind of like it. This is apparently the only painting Hunt Emerson has ever done. It's actually acrylic on paper, and just hot jazz. Next, we have Large Cow Comics. This is from 1979. This might be the first appearance of Max Zillion, but it is in an Alan Rabbit strip, which is his 70s character. So basically we see Max heading to a gig. And I think this is a proto Max Zillion. He seems a little different. He's not as much as a lovable loser, but he does talk to a saxophone. And he's playing a dinner theater gig. So he's singing the song called Eat That Chicken Pie, which is based on Eat That Chicken by Charlie Mingus. Really beautiful colors in here. If I'm not mistaken, I think he said these were done by Graham Higgins, the really great English cartoonist. Something really different about these colors. He mentioned how they were done, how they were different. They were done differently than normal coloring. And it really stands out. It really looks nice. Once again, we see a restaurant full of identical Just basically giant mouths mowing down on food. God, this cartooning looks so nice with these colors. This is beautiful. So, meanwhile, Alan's walking down the street, and he sees all these people eating meat. He's a vegetarian. People are offering him meat, like disgusting things, like a pig mask, the skin from a pig. Apparently, this is a real thing. A pickled bladder. He even has a little note saying, "True, all true." And then Alan starts dancing because he really gets into the music. God, I love this panel. That is just like pure great cartooning right there. I want to hear this song. And then I guess they get fed up with Alan's dancing and they kick him out, throw him out the back door. Now we have a pawn shop. And I believe this is a 20-teen strip. Could be wrong there, but I think it is. So Max has got a pawn. Oh no, guys, this is from the 90s. This was from A1, Volume 2, the epic 4-issue A1, which we looked at a little while back. And so this must be the mid-90s, I would guess. So Max has got a pawn, Alto. He gets his money, pays his rent, and then, of course, Mean McButter shows up, and he says, "Hey, I got you a gig." So he says, "Well, actually, I had to pawn my sax, so I can't play the gig unless I get $50. Could you give me an advance?" And he says, "Hell no. You better get that sax or you're not getting the gig." So he goes to back to the pawn shop, and Alto says, "Hey, I got a plan. Blow all the hot jazz on me now and hold it in until the gig." And this elaborate thing, they figure out a way to do it through the mail slot because the pawn shop is locked. It's after hours. I didn't mention, sorry, Max did borrow a saxophone from a friend for the show, but he knows it's not going to be as good without Alto. So he gets to the after doing this little thing with Alto, we see him holding in all the jazz, the sweet, sweet jazz. It is inside. And he's basically going to slowly unleash it throughout the night. But the bass player falls asleep. I like this too. We see these two bored beatniks turning into a skeleton, yawning. This guy's got a potato head now. Just like I said, Hunt Emerson just fills the panels with this kind of fun stuff. The sleeping bass player falls on Max, startles him, so he unleashes all that jazz in one burst. It actually causes like fire to come out of the sax. Everyone in the crowd wakes up and goes crazy, but the roof catches fire. Of course, he's out of the money he was going to get paid because it's going to, the bar owner is going to use it to pay for the new roof. I guess he's got $10 left though. And so as soon as he gets out of the bar, McButter takes the $10. He's right there on the spot. So he actually goes to the pawn shop, even though he's only got 25 cents. Turns out the pawn shop owner, who's like, "Hey, I was at that club last night. You were amazing. And you know what? Here, take your sax. You can pay me in installments. And here, give me that 25 cents for storage fee." So even though, once again, Max is broke, he has his Alto back, and they walk off happily playing jazz together. Next, we have Max Zillion and Alter Ego in Toronto. And this is from, I believe, the 2000s. Look this up, guys, because now I'm kind of curious. Yeah, 2015. You know, I can almost tell because it's so clean now. It's weird. It's almost like, reminds me of like Jay Lynch. It's that like tight and clean. So I guess he did this for some Toronto show. So he made a comic about Max in Toronto looking for a club to play. I guess he's got kicked out of all the other clubs, but he finally finds this one, the Jazz Boot. I like this. Jazz, strictly jazz. If it ain't jazz, it ain't here. Friday, jazz night. Saturday, jazz night. Sunday, lunch jazz. So he gets inside. Apparently, the owner and all the clientele are like these almost like jazz Nazis. They're just like, if it ain't jazz, we're going to kick you out. In fact, we have this thing called the Big Boot, the Jazz Boot. That's why it's called the Jazz Boot. If you don't play jazzy enough, if they don't like your jazz, this giant boot stomps you like a Monty Python sketch. So Max starts playing. I love seeing, the cool psychedelic sound effects that Hunt Emerson draws in color. These are like amazing tattoo designs, all of them. They look so good. Look at that. Okay, so the jazz bows here are not happy. They're like, this isn't good jazz. This isn't. So they unleash the Jazz Boot. And then this is just where it gets crazy. So the Jazz Boot, though, likes what Max is playing. So all these little toes inside the Jazz Boot just fly off in ecstasy. Just ricocheting off the walls like a blizzard. Kind of an interesting panel, abstract panel there. And the jazz bows are shocked. They're like, that's our main criticism. I'm sorry, our main weapon of criticism is the Jazz Boot, and it's betrayed us. It's tapping its foot to the music. So they basically kick Max out. They're just like, get out of here. And Maine McMudda shows up to take his money. Next we have Fossil. And we see Max out in the desert. I guess he pissed off this band leader who's playing with right in the middle of the desert. He kicks him out. So he's stuck out there. All of a sudden he kicks a rock, and all of a sudden inside is a fossil that kind of looks like a very early saxophone. And Alto tells him about how horses were once, little tiny things like piglet size, but then they evolved. So this could be like an ancient saxophone. So Max starts playing on this fossil, blowing through it. And then there's a call and response from over the mesas. He hears music flies through the air back at him. And it turns out it's these crazy, like, dinosaur saxophonosaurs, and hornosaurs. And they all have a jam session. Once again, seeing this shit in color. This is some beautiful stuff going on here. Kind of just a fun little strip. This one's called Jammin', and this is a silent strip he did for the, I think it was a French publication, and I think it was never published. We see Max is jamming with his jazz bow friends. This little kid shows up, basically says, can I join you? They're like, get the hell out of here. So he walks away dejectedly. Later on, Max wants to jam with these guys. He gets dejected. And then he realizes, hey, I got treated just like we treated that poor little kid. So the next day the kid comes back. This time Max says, hey man, think about all the other jazz greats. They all started somewhere. Let's let him play. And when the kid plays, this is the squonk that comes out. I love it how Hunt Emerson's so good at this. You can almost hear how bad this sounds by looking at the fractured, bent, warbly notes, And they basically are just like, stop, kid, stop, you're terrible. But then they all kind of laugh it off. And it looks like they're all going to help teach him how to play better. Very cute strip. Next is a little Christmas card he made with Max Zillion sometime. I don't know when. Next is Spellbound. And now I think we're going back to the 80s again. This is a great story. This is almost like a mini epic. We see Max in a thrift store. He finds a record that flips his wig. He says, Alto, you know what this is? This is the record I made when I was young with vocals by Ethel DeLue. There was only 2 copies, and one of them was broken. So this is the only copy. I don't know. How did it end up here? For 2 cents, no less. It's just fun looking at all the crazy detritus that he draws in the shop. A Picasso lampshade. So, I'm sorry. Alto was there back in the day. So it's not like he has to tell him the story. And the thing that he really remembers is Ethel. And you could tell already that like he was quite smitten with her. So in 1924, he was playing a third novelty horn in the King Biscuit Dixieland Jazz Band. And the singer was Ethel DeLue. I love this character, the way he draws her. And he was so in love with her, just so smitten with her, that when it was his turn to play a sax solo, his feelings for her came out as this crazy new jazz. Almost like, it's almost implied that it's like bebop before bebop, because Max does seem to be that kind of jazz player. Of course, the band leader doesn't like it. Remember, it's 1924. That crazy shit's not going to fly. And so we see a King Biscuit here. It's a King Penguin, Emperor Penguin, I should say. He kicks him out. He says, nobody liked that shit. Nobody wants to hear that shit. But then we see Ethel, and she says, she's thinking to herself, I liked it. And she's got little hearts in her eyes. Meanwhile, we see a young Mean McMutta, who's just a janitor at the time. He gets fired. He says, screw it, I don't need this job. I'm going to make money off that Ethel. She's got star power. I'm going to become her manager and make $1 million. So Max is still just totally in love, even though he has no job. And all he can think about, he's walking on air, literally. And he says, I'm going to go serenade her tonight. He goes to where she thinks she's staying, plays some amazing shit like he played it earlier in the day. Basically, it's his heart spilling out. This is the sounds that come from his love. Turns out he's at the wrong apartment building, so this guy throws a vase at his head. Meanwhile, Mean McMutta, he's going to serenade her. He knows where she lives. And he hires this like string quartet. And there's this little gag about how he's like, how come the moon's not out? And the moon finally says, sorry, boss, I had to change. And so he basically says, okay, guys, start playing. Ethel hears, and his serenade isn't based on love. He's serenading her saying, Miss Ethel, come away with me and let me guide your career. I'll give you a clothing allowance and a repertoire of great tunes and top professional accompanist. So even though she thinks the music he's playing is crap, it's slush, I think she calls it, she says, but a girl's got to eat. And as she goes to basically sell her soul to Mean McMutta, she's thinking, oh, Max, and her eyes have little hearts in them. Meanwhile, Max, of course, is still thinking about her, and he sees her drive past in a car, in Mean McMutta's car. So after that, her career skyrockets. Her career blossoms. She becomes a celebrity. Max is on the opposite trajectory. Can't even get a gig. He's at soup kitchens, sleeping on park benches. And then one night, Max is opening limousine doors for a penny a pop. I guess that was something poor people would do in the Depression. And it's Ethel. So he just grabs... the chauffeur, I guess, got out, so he just jumps in the driver's seat and runs away with Ethel, or drives away with Ethel. We see him zipping around a corner, and then look at this crazy panel. Just beautiful abstraction. Almost reminds you of like George Harriman stepped in, or a Cliff Starrett. Just this amazing design work. It's just such a weird, interesting panel. I thought this was them crashing, because it's so... crazy and kinetic. But no, it's just, these are trees, I guess, because it's a bird's eye view of them speeding away. They speed away into the country. They're both so happy that they're together. So they run out of gas, and they see a shack. They're like, maybe this guy will give us some gas. It's this crazy old guy, and the first thing he says, you a musician, Sonny? He says, well, yeah, I am. You sing, lady? She's like, yeah, I do. He says, I got to show you something. And he says, this is my record plant. I grew it myself. It's a bad pun, but it's actually a pretty interesting plot device. So this guy has spent 20 years nurturing this plant. In fact, you basically play music into this bulb here, and records spit out of the big mouth here. And so it's almost like Max and Ethel consummate their love with this song because they finally get to cut loose. And I love this. It almost works as far as I can. Look how her words are meshing with his musical notes. It's almost like, yeah, this is some kind of consummation. It's they're both so happy, and look at this here where they get all like angular, they get all geometric. It's almost like they're being transported to another dimensions. They're in such a musical ecstasy. And then the plant's loving it. The plant's all grooving on it. So the plant starts spitting out records. He spits out 2. But then, I guess Max's jazz is just a little too much for this plant. It's a hypness overload. And so he starts spitting out records that are all random shapes, triangles, weird shapes of all sizes. Here we see some of that, what is that, like Marshall Duchamp. You know, they're moving so fast and so crazy that they're becoming blurred images of each other. So, of course, the old man is all like, what the hell's going on? And then the plant drops dead. Of course, the old man is very sad. He's like, 20 years of growing that plant, or 40 years, whatever. And, but he's not mad at them. He gives them 1 copy of the record. He keeps 1 for himself. And then it's, Ethel seems to kind of change her tune. She's just like, well, Max, I really have to get back to Mr. McMutter. He'll be mad at me. But it does seem like she's planning on seeing him again, but she's just like, I gotta, get back to my career. But, we'll see each other as soon as we can. Speaking of Harriman, we got a little Harriman moon there. Hunt Emerson likes to do those a lot. So they part ways. Ethel returns to her apartment. Me and McMutter's waiting. He totally dresses her down and just says, you hanging out with Max Zillion? I don't want you hanging out with him. You're a star now. He'll tarnish your brand. He's pissed that she made the record. She said, I just made 1. He's like, you got a contract with me. You can't record with anyone else. And she's crying, and she's trying to explain to McMutter, that she's in love with Max. And McMutter puts the record on the record player. He says, wow, let's at least hear this stupid record. Let's see how you've been wasting my time. And he hears it. And it's musical notes and hearts. And the tender and passionate emotions of the music work a miracle. McMutter actually has a tear in his eye. And he says, it's real romantic. He's actually touched. So he actually caves in, probably for the first time in his life. He says, okay, Ethel, you can have a little break. I'll reschedule your grueling tour. Because that was one of her main things. She's just being worked down to a nib. But he's like, but I still don't want you seeing Max Zillion. I don't want you to be subjected to his crazy bop music. Only classy material for you, not this rubbish. And he breaks the record. So that's how the other record got broken. Now back to the present. And Max wonders to himself, I wonder how this record got here after all this years. It must have been that old man. He says, well, I do have 2 cents. I'm going to buy it. It's a great find. So for once, it's like, oh, that's great, Max. Of course, mean McMutter comes in the fucking door with his new act, this woman who eats records. And of course, McMutter grabs that record out of, away from Max, and she eats it. She chomps it up into bits. So once again, Max gets screwed over. But as he walks away, he tries to play that song from the record with alto. He's like, how did that go again? I thought the story, it was actually really moving. It's funny as hell, but overall, this story's just a fucking great story. Next, we have original hot jazz. This is another one of those silent strips we see Max, he finds this book, Original Hot Jazz Compositions, 1887. He buys it, he goes home, and he tries them out. So the first one, it makes this thing come out of his saxophone. And then it kind of dissipates. The next track, it makes this crazy thing come out, like geometric shapes, cones, and then they dissipate. The third thing, the third composition, makes this crazy little imp come out, who starts ricocheting across the walls, causing havoc, breaking everything in his apartment. That's some really nice color, once again, by the way. And Max tries to catch him, but he's just zinging around. Look, that's kind of a great panel in an abstract way. Finally, it looks like the little imp has disappeared, as far as Max knows, but we see that he actually jumped back into the saxophone. It is so annoying as I'm reading this that it's so hard not to say saxophone, like Homer Simpson does. Saxophone. I keep wanting to say it. It's very annoying. So, okay, back to the story. So, Max just says, oh, whatever, what the fuck. I guess he flew out the window. So, he picks up the book and he goes to the nearest jazz club. He's going to blow everyone away with these new, well, old compositions. Another beautiful panel here. God, this club owner is just so creepy and cool and weird looking. So he's in the dressing room. He decides to practice a little. That imp comes out of the saxophone. This time he captures him without him destroying everything. And he kind of basically has a talking to him. Scolds him, says, you stay here, I gotta play. So Max starts playing the first composition. That thing comes out again. Everyone loves it. The second composition, same kind of thing. The crowd loves it even more. But then the third one, he realizes, oh, I better skip that, because that imp might come back. So he goes to number 4. But number 4 makes another kind of serpent-like creature come out. People are digging on it. Isn't this interesting, this panel for Hunt Emerson? Totally different artist. It's almost like he's trying to ape Kurtzman or something. For this one panel, it's a totally different style. I thought that was interesting. So as he turns the page of the book to dissipate, I guess all these things dissipate once the song's over. But there's no last page. I guess this book, it's old. A page burnt away decades ago. And so he can't dispel this giant thing. It's just crowding out everyone in the club. Everyone in the club's freaking out. He's like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But then the imp comes and saves the day. He runs over. I guess he escaped the dressing room. And he says, play number 3. The one that summons me, gives me power, I guess. So he basically starts lassoing, running around the monster, this snake-like monster so fast, it kind of like lassos him. And he's riding him like a bronco, and he basically subdues him. And maybe I'm not crazy about the Kurtzman influence here. Those look very different too. This is later era Emerson though, so of course style's gonna change. I believe this is from the teens too, I hope. And then this portal appears, and we see all these old jazz men. And the little imp seems to be very happy. Like, oh, that's my home. He grabs the book before he leaps into it. And so I guess he leaps into the past. He escapes this present. And Max, for once, has a great show where he actually gets paid, but then he realizes that he left the book behind, or the book's gone. And it's all a lot of money. But then he says, what the fuck? Alto says, let's just play some music, who cares? And as he walks off playing jazz, we see that thing in the sky, the little imp. This is kind of a weird strip. It's this is called Sacked and Robbed. And let me just refresh my memory here. This is there's an Italian comic book called Puck, which has a character named Puck and all his weird friends. So this was almost like a guest story where they said, hey, Hunt Emerson, would you draw a Puck story for us? But of course, he turns it into a Max Zillion story. So Puck hangs out with his buddies here. One's a bodiless head. One's a demon, the kobold demon. They're walking down the street. They need money. And I think they're going to, they'll get it by hook or by crook. These guys are criminals. They pass a club, and the demon hears music and is lured into this club. It takes the Puck and the other guys a minute or a few blocks to realize that he's not around. So they say, yeah, he went in that club. And Puck is crying. I'm sorry, the demon is crying because Max is playing this beautiful song. And of course, Puck is all like, don't be such a wuss. Come on, we got to find some money. Get the hell out of here. And they start brawling. The head falls into alto. Max spits the thing out of the saxophone. And the owner of the club kicks out the Puck and his friends. And he also kicks out Max for being a trouble magnet. He does give him 2 weeks' pay, though. So for once, you're like, wow, Max actually gets money. And Mean McMudda does show up. So unfortunately, though, Puck and his friends mug Max. They see that he's got all this money. And then, of course, Mean McMudda shows up saying, hey, where's the 60% of that, my manager's fee for that show you just played? He says, I can't pay you. I just got mugged. So he describes his attackers, and Mean McMudda knows who they are. He's like, Puck. So he goes to Puck's hangout, where all him and his buddies are hanging out, and he basically says, 60% of that money belongs to me. I guess Puck is a very fearsome figure in the underworld. So they pay up. Next, we have another one of those phenomenomics from 14 Times. Just a goofy little one-pager, once again featuring Max, a little gag strip. It's kind of weird when I saw this. It reminded me of Joe Sacco, strangely enough. So this one is just I believe this is from the 80s again. So like every story, once again, Max has got a new gig from Mean McMudda. Mean McMudda says, okay, here's the address. The guy's a friend of mine. His name's BLZ-Bub. And he plays jazz saxophone. He wants to trade licks. Sign here into this red ink and get your ass on down to Z-Bub's club. You'll make $2. Of course, after my 10% fee. So Max follows the directions, and he's just, starts off in the nice part of town, and it's just getting worse and worse. The parts of town he's walking through. And he's basically finally on the outskirts of town. It looks like some apocalyptic landscape. And then he gets to the river Styx. I love this panel. Look at this of Charon. He basically is pointing, saying, get on my raft. I'll take you across the river. But that is just really amazingly spooky and cool, this one panel. It doesn't look like it's from a Hunt Emerson comic. I would never guess out of context that it was. So he gets to, basically, obviously, he's in hell. And, Hunt Emerson has illustrated Dante's Inferno, so it's kind of a parody of that. All these various sinners, advertising people, media presenters, being in cauldrons of sheep drool. Sheep are just drooling on them. And Charon's kind of pointing out everything in hell to him. So they finally get to Beelzebub's club. That's a great sign, by the way. It looks really wicked. There's Cerebus, looking very silly. He's the guard dog. And now we meet Zebub. I'll just call him Zebub from now on. And all these great demons gives Hunt Emerson really a great opportunity to just draw all these crazy imaginative demons. So it basically, this seems like a devil went down to Georgia situation. You know, he wants to have a musical competition with Max. Now, Max has a strange strategy. Max says, okay, this guy paid us in advance. We got to play badly. We got to let him win. Because then he'll feel satisfied and he won't try to take our money back. So we're going to, basically on purpose, we're going to play badly. So that's what Max does. He goes out there and look how you can tell the music's bad, you know? It's falling out of the sax, dribbling on the ground. It's not fun stuff. I just love the way he can pictorially depict that. Like, I totally hear the music, you know? It's just kind of lame. So then Zabub, he gets his orchestra rev up. He's got a whole orchestra. And look at this shit coming out of a sax. It's like heavy metal, just like in The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Well, that was disco. But this is just fire and skulls coming out. Look at this crazy orchestra here. And I love this little cameo. Look at the checkered demon. Look at all cute, playing the piano for Zabub. That's a pretty wicked page. That could be a nice back tattoo. And so Max is just like, oh, well, I guess you win, sir. See you later. He's like, hell no, we're having a second round. And this time Alto is not going to play some shit. Because basically Alto can just take over. So Alto, he takes over and plays some smoking hot jazz. And it's so good that the Devil's Orchestra and Zabub kind of start jamming with him. They're like, this is good shit. I want to jam with this guy. They basically, hour after hour, they jam, neither giving or taking a bar. Hard jive. So finally, for the big climax, Max plays a high note, a perfect D sharp, and holds it and holds it. And look at this, how by holding it, it's almost making reality more abstract. Like, that's how piercing it is. It's like warping reality. Like, look how just amazingly crude that is. It's really, I thought that was just a great effect. So this, he holds it long enough that a little piece of the Earth's crust pops out and the D sharp erupts out of hell into the earth. Now this causes an updraft, and all the devils in hell, including Max, they all get sucked up through this hole onto Earth. They're unleashed on Earth. And now they're all ready to despoil, the paradise of Earth. Earth is ripe for ruination, it says. But they find the Earth a very different place, not what they expected. And in the introduction, Hunt Emerson laments that he did this. He says, yeah, I have 4 pages of social commentary, and I never did it again. So basically he shows all the shitty things on Earth. Toxic waste spills, people like hunting innocent animals from helicopters with high-powered rifles, a chicken farm. So it's kind of interesting to see Hunt Emerson draw in this totally different style, very serious. I mean, it's cartoony, but very serious. We see the Star Wars satellites fighting each other, Vietnam, people burning people alive with blowtorches. Just every kind of horrible thing that makes the world a shitty place. Crack smoking 7-year-olds, starving people. And each page shows the demons looking on, they're aghast. They're like, oh God. They're almost scared. We see skinheads, Nazi skinheads beating the shit out of someone, police brutality, just, the whole gamut. And finally the demons say, like, bloomin' hell, eternal damnation seems like a piece of cake compared to this shit. I'm going home. And all the demons agree. They're like, yeah, get me out of here. And so Max is left alone. And he sells the $2 the devil paid him. They're coins. But all of a sudden they get burning hot and they dissolve into nothing, into ash. So, of course, Max ends up screwed. Oh yeah, he does have 20 cents in his pocket to take a tram home because he's way out in the middle of nowhere. Of course, McMudda shows up out of nowhere, all the way out in the desert, and says, "Hey, I'll take that 20 cents. That's my 10%. But once again, Max just walks home, playing alto. The two best friends doing what they love to do. This is really nice for this book. They got the Jazz Lounge Gallery. And it's basically Hunt Emerson asked all his cartoonist friends, or just people who he admired, to contribute drawings that were either about, of Max or jazz inspired. So we have Dougie Braithwaite from the UK. Really nice drawing. This guy's name is Q, K-E-W, but it stands for Carl White. Here's Roy Connolly. Most of these guys are British. Lou Stringer. That guy's been around forever. And this is very odd, guys. Look at this Dave McKeon. I would never guess this was Dave McKeon. Very strange drawing for him. Really warped. Mark Stafford. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Mark Stafford. That's really nice. Most of these guys I never heard of, and some of them I really want to see more by. I'm really impressed with some of these guys. Paul Wardle from Canada. Clive Goddard from the UK. And this Finnish artist named Juba. Very cute. Look at this, Jay Lynch. I thought this was amazing. And really nice. Charles Burns showing Al Borba playing the bongos like a beatnik. Daryl Cunningham, another cutesy style, kind of like it. Here's Al Davison, Spiral Cage guy. This is Sammy Boris, Kevin Lee Bennett, Steve Pugh. You guys have probably heard of Steve Pugh. Once again, all these guys are English. He draws Ethel in his own style. Here's Ryan Hughes redoing the Jazz Funnies cover. But he actually designed the cover in the first place back in the 80s. But now he decided to redraw it as a little homage. That's pretty nice, snazzy. Peter Bagg, of course. This guy, David Noon. Kate Charlesworth. Bob Fingerman from the USA. Minimum wage guy. Really nice drawing. This is Nigel Parkinson. A guy named Brick from England. I guess John Clark. Carol Swain. Hansi Kiefersauer from Germany. I really want to find more by this guy. I love this little style. Even though it's very tiny, this guy looks good. He's got the goods. This guy actually, he does knits based on Hunt Emerson's designs. He actually knits sweaters. Michiru Morikawa from Japan. Pretty interesting one. Krent Abel, Nigel Auterloni, Walu from Finland. Gary Whitlock. This guy's name is Hurricane Ivan from Italy. He's the one who did that, the Puck comic. He didn't do it in this issue, but he normally draws Puck. And, the one that Hunt Emerson did that guest gig on. John Crawford and Big Jim Stewart. This guy I don't ever want to see again. Not very good. Then we have Steve Gibson. I think he used to be in 2000 AD a lot. Probably, maybe still is. Doing a little homage to the Flintstones. Eric Nisley, he's an American. Tim Leatherbarrow. Wow, that's pretty bad. Rich Stone. Kind of nice caricature. Maury Kunnis from Finland. This Brazilian artist named Beth. And then Gilbert Shelton. I looked at this cartoon. I had no clue this was Gorbachev until I looked down at the credit. I never would have guessed. This is him in 2015. I think Gorbachev hasn't drawn much in the past, 20 years. Pretty funny stuff, though. We see these two famous jazz legends kind of making fun of Max. I like how they're like, what's all that stuff coming out of his saxophone? Because Hunt Emerson always draws that. Laura Howell. This is a really interesting one. Keith Burns. And I was like, what is this scene from World War II? What does it have to do with Max? But if you look closely, there's a nose cone art, or whatever they call it, on an airplane of Max. Lou Stringer. Gabby Noble. This is pretty nice. Mikey Ball. This guy's John Berkeley. He's from Ireland and or Spain, it says. I guess he lives in both countries. Susie Varty. Chris Welch. English and Australian. Kind of nice. And we just end with the Hunt Emerson pinup. Summing up the book. Well, Alto, that's jazz. There you go, guys. Hot jazz. When I was reading this last night, I actually put on some jazz. I don't like jazz, really. I haven't really tried, but whenever I have, I've just been like, it's just background music. But I listened to Sun Ra from the 50s. I kind of liked it. It was kind of nice listening to jazz while reading this. I don't know if I'll ever listen to it again, but it was a better experience than I thought it would be. So, well, that's it for Hunt Emerson's Hot Jazz, guys. Sorry it took so long, but it's a pretty fat book. And thanks for watching, if you did watch to this point. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.